Welcome back to Sledgehammer Horror, guys. I am Ken Sledge, and let's talk horror. Now, today I am joined by the beautiful Trinity Chase. Trinity, how you doing today?
I'm doing great. How are you doing?
I am doing very well. I am very excited to have you here. But for the people that don't know you real quick, Trinity, I would like for them to get to know you a little bit. Trinity was born and raised in Calgary, Alberta, and moved to Vancouver about a year and a half ago to go to acting school and pursue her dream, which she then landed the leading role in the upcoming Unseen, which if you guys have been watching the channel, you kind of have a little bit of an idea about that after watching the interview and stuff like that. So what can you tell us a little bit about the movie that you're doing to get ready for, because at the time of recording, you guys still haven't started filming yet.
hmm
So what are some of the things you're doing to get ready for the film?
yeah, I'm just meeting with Steve every once in a while. He's writing and directing the film and reading the script all the time, making sure I'm keeping up with all of that kind of stuff and kind of just that right now and obviously supporting the Indiegogo, like constantly we're trying to make that goal. So, that's the first milestone.
Right. And this
hmm
is one thing that I'm super excited about. I'm very excited to see how you do in this film because I have always been a huge horror fan. And I feel like if you can act in horror, you can act in anything.
hmm
That's why I feel like a lot of like comedic actors are really, really good at horror because it's all about timing. So, for
hmm
your first role being a horror film, I think that says a lot about you and who you are to be able to land a leading role for the first time. So, we talk about how with Unseen, you landed the leading role in that film. Do you have anything else coming up the pipeline that you could talk about?
That actually right now, I recently took part of, if any of the fans around are from Vancouver, there's a festival called Run and Gun here. It's a 48-hour film festival that's pretty fun, and I recently, me and a production company called 95 Films took part in that, which was super fun. We unfortunately did not make the top 40, but we had so much fun doing it. So I'd say that's what's coming up for me, but that's about it.
See, and it's awesome that you can do these things just to get ready. Because one thing we've talked about is
Mhm.
in the business, you're going to hear no a whole lot more than you're going to hear yes. So
Oh my
um,
gosh, yes.
I'm very excited to see what you have coming up down the pipeline. And the best way for you guys, I know I said this before, but the best way for you guys to stay up to date on what she's doing is to follow her on social media. And all those links are down in the description. So make sure you're giving her a follow so you can stay up to date on all the amazing things that she has coming up. So we know that, in order to be in a horror movie and have horror in your life like that, horror had to start for you somewhere. So now,
Mhm.
here for a second, Trinity, I would like to go back to the past and talk about how horror started for you, your first horror movie. And Trinity, the first horror movie you watched was
The Blair Witch Project. Yeah.
what an amazing start to your horror life.
I felt like it was perfect. Like, wow, what a film. Like, obviously I'd heard of it before and like exceeded all expectations, obviously.
and what's so amazing about this movie is it was obviously filmed on a shoestring budget, and
hmm
back then we didn't have Google in our pockets. So we couldn't go and look like, is this real? Is this fake? We were really under the impression this was all real.
Yeah.
There's no title card at the beginning, there's no credits. It's just, hey, here we are. This was like, it wasn't the first found footage film, obviously, but this really helped to explode it into the mainstream. Um, do you remember about how old you were the first time that you had seen it?
It was actually quite recently. Um, I would say, oh gosh, it was probably like 2 or 3 years ago that I watched it. I'm not gonna lie, I'm a very easily scarable person, so I never watched horror movies, like ever. And I was like, I need to get over this. Like horror, it's such a huge genre that's so prominent. And I was like, I can't close myself off from this genre.
Right.
So I was like, it's like I'll start with a classic and I'll go from there.
And you really did choose a great one because the acting is superb and the
Mm,
found footage aspect of it really does add a lot to a first time viewer that's not very familiar with the genre. So you get that whole feeling of, is this real? What's fake? What isn't fake? And do you remember who you were with when you had watched it?
oh, I was alone.
Oh,
It's just me in my room. And I'm pretty sure it was like really late at night too. So like, the perfect, also worst experience that's like just the coming together.
it's the perfect storm.
Yeah,
You know,
it's
to watch this movie, especially in the dark, because there's a lot of this movie that takes place in the dark,
in the
very
dark. Yeah.
scary in the dark. Um, and that's part of what makes this movie so scary, and you
Hmm.
never get to see the villain in the movie
Yes.
per se.
That's like one of the reasons why I thought maybe it would be like easier for me because I was like, you never see anything. So I was like, maybe it will be like a nice into it that'll like it will be so freaky because you don't see anything. It's just the unknown, which I realized after watching it is almost worse.
Yeah,
Like,
absolutely. Oh, I do want to say, if you get the chance, and people that are watching, I'll try to remember to put the link in the description. On YouTube, they have a video that has all the alternate endings to the film. And one of the alternate endings, you do see something. That's all I'm going to say. I'm not going to spoil anything, but
I was gonna
I'm
say,
going to write it down right now.
I know that like I mean, maybe spoilers for it, but I'll try not to say anything. But I know, like, if you read the IMDb trivia, which I love to do, there's a scene where you were supposed to see something, and they forgot to, like, the guy who was manning the camera forgot to turn, and so you
Yeah.
don't, and they actually liked that better. That might be the deleted scene, but like, I remember that reading that and being like, oh no, I like it better if you don't see anything. It's
I
just like
will
the
say the
shaky.
ending. Oh, yeah. The ending they went with is
Mm,
definitely the best option. So make sure you check that
insane.
out, Trinity, and let me know what you think of the alternate endings,
Yeah.
because I'm
Oh,
curious to see
100%.
what you think.
Yeah, that sounds
Um,
so cool.
Yeah. So this is a movie that, like I said, and when this came out, like people that are, fans or friends of the podcast, you've heard me tell this story before, but it's completely real. We were at our friend Sarah Tuckerman's house. It was a party. I was a little punk rock kid, green hair, smoking a cigarette outside, and I was like, "Yeah, man, that shit's real. Heather's my cousin, man. We haven't been able to find her. You're just stoking the fire." Like I was like, "That's totally real shit, man." Like little 14-year-old dickhead punk rock kid. I can admit it now. Like I was fucking 22 years ago, but I was just like, man, some of the saddest shit, and they put it up there for our fucking whole family to see, man.
Yeah.
Bullshit. Like I was just a little dumb shit kid. But that's what was so special about this movie
Yeah.
is we didn't know any better, and Paranormal Activity came back into the same thing, like the trailers
Yeah.
for Paranormal Activity were just people screaming in the movie theater because they were so scared. So you're like, what the hell, I need to see this.
Yeah.
Marketing can make or break a film, and the marketing for a movie like this absolutely made the film. It for the longest time was the highest grossing movie of all time compared to what it spent on what it brought in. So that
I
shows you're
know
doing
like
something right.
my one of my old English teachers, he was living in Vancouver when it came out, and he's like, I remember the marketing campaign. There were missing posters
Yeah.
everywhere. Like that's what
Mhm.
they did to like prep people for it was strew missing posters of these three people everywhere. And I'm like, that would have been so cool to live through. Oh, wow.
And with cell phones and the internet being in your pocket all the time, stuff like that just can't happen now.
No,
You know,
it's kind of, yeah, it kind of sucks. Like the idea
right?
of like getting to live through something like that would be like so cool.
And it's even worse when you have dumb kids that are like, "It's real, man. This shit's totally real. That's
Yeah.
my family." Like
Yeah.
little dickhead Kenny. Like I said, this movie is still very impactful to this
Mhm.
day. It's one of those movies that is still extremely unsettling because of the amount of tension that it's just building throughout the whole movie. But do you remember which scene it was, Trinity, that affected you the most?
It's got to be the like final scene, like in that house with like just so like unknown. And like I think like there's this moment in the like literal final seconds where it almost slows down as like there's like this pause, and it's that makes it so much worse because you're still riding this adrenaline high of like the
Yeah.
whole movie, and then it just kind of like it's like your heart skips a beat a little bit or like stops, and you're like, what's gonna
Right.
happen? Like I don't think we're done, but what's gonna happen? And it's like I just like that visceral feeling is something I think about a lot.
Well, and it's again, like it's one of those things where, when you're living through it, especially, and if it's your first horror movie, or you went to see it back then and you didn't know, it really adds this amount of fear and anxiety because what if these
Mhm.
people were real? What if they were really going through this type of thing?
Yeah.
And when you see that ending, and like you said, it's so visceral how he's standing in the corner, and then you just
Yeah.
have the camera drop. Like it's such like, okay, what's happening? What's happening? It's over. That's where the tape ends. Not every Hollywood story has a great ending.
Yeah.
That's just it. We don't know. And that's what makes it even scarier. So, I mean, I got to ask now, because as of recording, this is officially a trilogy. So, have you seen the Blair Witch 2 Book of Shadows or Blair Witch 2016?
No?
Okay. You can skip Book of Shadows.
Okay. All right.
Just my
Good to
opinion.
know.
I didn't like it, but it's more Hollywood. It's not
Mm.
found footage.
Mhm.
It just doesn't. However, Blair Witch Project 2016 picks up 20 years after the events of the first one, with Heather's younger brother going out to find her in the woods.
Ooh.
So I can recommend Blair Witch 2016, and it was just announced. I don't know how public it is yet, but they are adding another chapter to the Blair Witch Project in the next coming
Oh.
year. So um, that also is what I was going to ask you. Like, a question I asked a
Mhm.
lot of people: would you like to see your first horror movie remade today? Now we know requels, remakes, sequels. It's all the rage in Hollywood, and Blair Witch did have that in 2016 because it is technically a
Mhm.
sequel. Where Blair Witch 2 is a sequel, it really is its own story. There's no connecting
Mhm.
tissue to the first one really in Blair Witch 2 Book of Shadows. Blair Witch 2016, like I said, it's a and it's so good. God damn, that movie's so good. But would you like to see an actual remake of the Blair Witch Project today?
I think like I mean, I'd love to, but the creative brain in me is like, you have to do something new.
Right.
How do you do something new with the thing that was revolutionary? Like it's like
Sure.
if you don't create something that is revolutionary in its own, you're gonna fail. So it's like it's the nervousness of like, yeah, of course I'd love a sequel, but I'd want a good sequel. And I have absolutely no guarantee of getting that.
Sure.
So it's like the nervousness of that. And I
No,
feel like that's the problem with so many horror movies is like they have such beautiful endings and then they gross so much money. They're like, let's make another. And it's like, no, you ended it. That was the point.
yeah,
And it's like the Conjuring did it actually fairly well, where they were like, we're bringing in these people to this story so these people can keep having stories instead of like continuing with the family. Obviously, the family just moved on, or
right.
didn't. I don't know what happened to them. That's pretty traumatic. What happened to them? So they probably didn't move on. But like, I think like those are great. Like The Conjuring's God, it's such a big universe of like how many films? Like 8, 9. But
Yeah,
it's so hard with those like one-offs that are such like haunting stories, and then you're like, let's make another. It's like, no, the story was good,
right.
but
And
it's hard to
I
do
agree with you.
again.
What bothers me is I don't mind, like, sequels have never bothered me. Never, never,
Mhm.
never. Younger remakes used to bother me. The older I've gotten, I don't care as much anymore, because even if you have the world's shittiest remake, it might introduce somebody that had never seen the original back to the original. And it's not like they're going to come
Mm.
to my house and take the original off my shelf. I can still watch that if I don't like the remake. But um, with a sequel, it's the same thing. If you want to try to build on the story, I respect it. But sometimes stories shouldn't be built off of.
Yeah.
Jaws, for example. Jaws should have never had any sequels. Like that should have been a one. You didn't need 4 sequels to Jaws. That's ridiculous. So
Yeah.
um this is the things that I've always thought about. And like with the Blair Witch, like you're saying, that's a movie that is going to be so hard. If they ever did an actual hard remake, you're not going to capture that same, lightning in a bottle you had,
Mhm.
because of the advances in technology now. So I think that's one that you should leave alone. But we talked about some of the things that you're doing, and your first horror movie. But now, Trinity, my little buddy Ghostface is here, and he has a question for you. What's your favorite scary movie, Trinity? What is your favorite horror movie of all time?
Oh gosh. I'm not gonna lie, I haven't seen a lot. Oh, I don't know if this technically counts as a horror, but I do love me a good like psychological thriller, and like what got me into like a kick of them was Old Boy, which
Okay.
is, I think, like, I don't know if it's necessarily horror because there's like there's nothing paranormal about it, but I don't think that's the criteria. But it's, that one was like scary as well as like mind messing. But if like horror, I'd say like when I was like a year ago or something, I watched with my friend It, and I did really like it. And I read the book, and the book is wilder, but I did really like it. It's like a pretty good, it's a pretty, I mean, Bill Skarsgård's wild, and like those kids are insane. They're so talented. So it's like they made the movie beautiful.
And that's where a remake can really do justice, you know?
Yeah.
Like, if you're going to do a remake, that's the type of movie you should remake, because it in 1990 was not a theatrical movie. It was a made for TV film, you know, and with the advancement in technology, the way that they did, you know, it chapter 1 and chapter 2, I thought were great. I loved those
Yeah.
movies. I thought they were fantastic. So, man, I've had an amazing time, Trinity, talking to you about all these things. It means so much to you. You know, your first horror movie, your favorite horror movie. But before I let you go, we're going to do the same thing we always do. We're going to go back to the Blair Witch Project. And what we're going to do is rank this movie on a skull count. Now, we're not ranking this movie on acting, production, score, nothing like that. All we're doing is strictly ranking this movie on how much it affected you on your first viewing. So 0 skulls being not effective, 5 being extremely effective. You can use half and quarter skulls anywhere in the middle. Trinity, what would your ranking of the Blair Witch Project be?
Oh gosh. I think like a 4.25 skull. Like I'll totally watch that movie again. Like, and like I think it's like, even though like it's a little bit kind of like drugs, where it's like you can't recapture the first high, but it does get pretty close to like even rewatching it, you're like, gosh. Like, so like
I really
probably
think you need to watch Blair Witch 2016.
now, yeah, now I feel like I have to. I'm definitely like, I have to. Like, this sounds like you're hyping it up so much. I've gotta.
Look, I will say this: it's not as good as the Blair Witch Project, but again, I don't think anything found. That's probably cream of the crop when it comes to found footage for me. But the choices that are made in this movie to make it its own film, while, you know, creating a great sequel to the original. You know, her little brother going to look for her. I mean, the movie literally starts with him online, and they found another tape, and he sees this blonde girl in there, and he's like, "Look, it's my sister. She's still out there."
Yeah.
So they're going out to find her, and then the way that that twists around at the end, I think, is magnificent. So,
I think there's another film like that, isn't it? But it's with that forest in Japan where like the sister goes to look for her sister there. I've heard of that one too. That one also seems like it was.
What's it called? I think it's called The Forest. It's because it's about the suicide forest in Japan.
Yes,
which is a real thing.
Yeah.
And yeah, that's another movie where it takes a really hard left turn at the end, and you're like, "What? How did that happen?" And that's what this movie does. Blair Witch 2016 does the same thing. At the end, you're like, "Wait, what? Okay, I see what you did there, Blair Witch, you sneaky little witch." But it works. Like in the universe of the Blair Witch, the way that I feel the same way about the ending of 2016 as I did about the original. Not everything needs to be tied up in a pretty little bow. Sometimes something happens and you're just like, no, and then it happens. So you do get to see a little something in 2016. But I do want to remind everybody, I do have all of Trinity's social media links in the description. So please make sure you're following her to stay up to date on everything that she has coming up in the future. Because unfortunately, we're at the end of the third act. The credits are about to roll and the curtain's about to drop. But before that does, please make sure you also follow Sledgehammer Horror on social media. All our links are down in the description as well. And if you haven't already, please like and subscribe. It helps the channel more than you could possibly know. Trinity, please don't go anywhere. I got a couple more questions for you. Everybody else, as always, keep talking horror, stay what you are, and we'll see you guys soon.